Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. The Wolves of the Calla, Part 2.
In our previous episode.
You know what's really funny is I promised it wouldn't take forever, and then it took the exact amount of time it takes us to release another episode. I really want to say sorry, but if you listen to We Are All Kosh, you know that we did lose Pippin. He crossed the little kitty rainbow bridge after a very long month of working very hard to try to make him better. But in the end, I really don't think that there was a way that we could.
Mm-mm.
But I'm really glad we tried. But what it does mean is that I prioritized Pippin for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And then after he passed, I needed time and you needed time and we took time. And now we are back. And I legitimately put out 3 episodes today because I released all the Murderbot episodes we recorded while we were working with Pippin, while we were trying to help Pippin. And I released a Feast, Sheath, and Shatter episode that we recorded fully a month ago. And I had not gotten around to editing and putting out. So I'm catching up. We're catching up. We're going to put out this episode and then pretty quickly, I swear, pinky promise, I don't have my fingers crossed. I swear to God, we will put out the next one, the Wind Through the Keyhole, in short order.
Mm-hmm. We've already read it.
Forthwith, it will be coming out because we've already read it and it's short. And I really don't know like what we're going to talk about except, there was a book and I read it.
There was a lot of foreshadowing about things that happened in
Wolves of the Calla. Almost as if we should have read it before we read Wolves of the Calla. But in our defense, it was written after Wolves of the Calla. So maybe when we do our reread where we talk about all these books all over again from the very beginning.
Maybe we're reading them in publication order.
No.
And next time we'll read them in internal story chronological order.
Well, Wind Through the Keyhole was published like recently. Like it just came out not long ago.
Oh, so after 7.
Yeah, although I've been seeing articles that are like Stephen King reveals details about his next Dark Tower book. And I was like, what? I thought it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess the ending is controversial. I don't know anything about it. I'm excited to get there and find out how controversial it actually is.
Yeah.
Nothing can make me rage like I raged about Wizard and Glass. Maybe. I don't know. It's a bar. We're going to find out if the bar can be reached, met, exceeded. If it's totally out of the realm of possibility, we will find out. But what we left off at is right when we were getting some of Callahan's story.
Of how he got into
Of how
not
he,
Midworld.
Yeah, how he ended up in, I think they're in Endworld now.
Okay.
And how he ended up there in Calla Bryn Sturgis. And Roland was just about to tell Eddie that his wife is waking up in the middle of the night to go eat frogs and shit.
Yeah.
This was really interesting because this was the first time we have really seen Roland completely out of his depth.
Right. Struggling to figure out what to do because Roland always has a very strong instinct of what is necessary to be done.
Well, he's 1,000 fucking years old. He's done it all before. And this is the first unique situation he's found himself in who even knows how long. So it's just kind of interesting. We also get some more of Jake's, like we learn more about Jake and Jake's psychic ability because Jake's psychic ability really blooms in this one.
Definitely.
Because he picks up what Roland's putting down like immediately. And he's like, how can we be Kata if you're keeping secrets? And Roland's like, cool, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Tell me the better way through this.
Right, which is pretty...
It's pretty bold. He's like, I don't know. I'm out of my depth, Jake. What do you think? And Jake's like, I don't know.
Very vulnerable for Roland.
Yeah. It's a really good masculine moment
Mhm.
because we have this really overtly masculine character. I would say that Roland is almost archetypically masculine. He carries guns and everything. He's the gunslinger. He's the
He always knows what to do. What
Clint
he knows to
Eastwood.
do is the right thing.
Yeah. He follows his gut. His gut always tells him the right thing to do, and when it doesn't, he has guns to get himself through it. Like he may stumble, but for the most part, he does not look back at his decisions and question them. He's like, "Well, I did it, and now I've moved on." Except for letting Jake go.
Right.
It's really interesting how often we come back to that, and I wonder if Stephen King knew when he wrote the first book that he was going to be bringing Jake back. I wonder how much of this is planned out and how much of this arrives chiefly from the moment.
Right.
Because he couldn't have known when he wrote his first book that they would be fighting things dressed like Dr. Doom, carrying lightsabers and throwing sneeches from Harry Potter. That all had to be inserted later. So was this always the plan, or does every time he sit down to write a book, he pantsses it? Is it pantsed or plot? I think pants. I wonder if he's said. At this point, I'm wondering, he almost has to plan this out because so much of it is twisty-turny. Because we have those situations where Eddie and company are going to New York. And we actually talked to Callahan, and at one point he mentions that he almost got killed by these guys called the Hitler Brothers. And that he was rescued, and they're like, "Oh, he was rescued by Calvin Tower and Aaron Deep now."
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, somebody had to tell them that Callahan was going to be there.
Yeah.
It must have been us. We must have told him. Which the only reason they can tell them is because Callahan has told them, but the only reason Callahan can tell them is because they showed up and saved him.
Right.
And that's why time travel is twisty-turny, wibbly-wobbly. But I also think we left off by talking about how amazing the concept of these secret highways is. And I stand by that. And I was thinking today that, you know what I haven't read in a really long time? A good urban fantasy book. I love some urban fantasy. And I feel like urban fantasy is a really underserved genre right now. Yeah. We're getting a lot of a world that is fantasy, but is also like us adjacent, where it's like our world, but with magic. But magic is something that's well known.
Right. That's always been there. Or just like to the left of center of our world, where it's kind of our world, but not quite our world. And that's why the magic works. But I love like the Harry Dresden Files, where it's our world, but there is this other world that the vast majority of people are not aware of. Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that the Callahan book, the Callahan moments in this are very urban fantasy because he just gets on a bus.
Because he's wandering around like actual New York City.
Yeah.
But then there's bridges to other worlds.
Yeah, he gets on a bridge, a footbridge, and there's a newspaper on the bridge, and it's talking about stuff that doesn't happen in our time. Or he'll pull money out of his wallet and it has a different president on it. And that is such an amazing concept that every time he gets on these highways, he's not just traveling to a different place, he's traveling to a different world. And that it is so well understood by the people who travel those secret highways that it's not even remarked upon.
Right.
So that the other half are like transient people who move constantly may be aware of a world that people who never go anywhere could never be aware of. And it kind of implies that the fabric of reality has been falling apart for a lot longer.
Right. For all these holes to be here and be well known.
Yeah. For you to just
or
be
at
able
least
to
known well enough.
Slip sideways through reality. There has to be holes.
It's like in Time Bandits where they have the map. The map for where all the holes will be. I wonder if Time Bandits
like that
happens within the Dark Tower multiverse.
I mean, everything does. Everything does, which means that everything everywhere all at once happens in the Dark Tower universe. And famously, we don't like that movie. We did review it early on. It was actually a recommended movie
one of our Patreons, which we've gotten 3 Patreons in the last month. I don't even know what's happening. I'm going to have to write them down and say hello to all of them on each and every podcast. So look for that. But anyway, famously, we don't like everything everywhere all at once. And I think it's really funny because it swept the awards and then it just fucking disappeared. Have you heard anyone talking about everything everywhere all at once?
Maybe once.
In the time since it was
passing.
released. Yeah, it's for free on Tubi. It's not even like a pay to rent it movie anymore. I think it's really funny. Anyway, that means that the method of travel that they use where you have to do something completely unexpected is also a way to travel through the universes, which I think would be an interesting crossover. I might watch that movie. It might get me to watch the everything everywhere all at once concept again. But so eventually, not to go through, I don't want to go through this book completely linearly because there's some things that I feel like we just need to riff on. And I'm not sure how I feel. Like, I like that he included Callahan in the book.
Yeah.
I like that I've read Salem's Lot, so I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't, but you get it even anyways.
Yeah.
So whether you've read it or haven't read it, which is nice that we have both perspectives.
I saw the movie.
We did during our 1979 movies, vampire movie marathon. We watched that. So you've seen Callahan from the movie. But not only is he in the book, his book is in the book. Because Calvin Tower gives them that
Salem's Lot,
that library cart of rare books to save, because knowing that his bookstore is going to get torn down, is going to get burned down, and it does. And he literally picks up the book and
gets a stranger than fiction moment.
Well, Roland picks up the book and they don't even tell us what the cover is. They just describe. They don't tell us what the title is. They describe the title. And so it really depends on you knowing what the original Salem's Lot title page, like cover looks like.
Book cover.
And I do, obviously. So it was fine. But I was like, wow.
You got it.
Wow, this is really okay. So he's not just including characters as if every fictional world that he's created is real, but those books are also, or those worlds are also still fiction. So right. Callahan is a fictional character, which implies that the other characters, Roland and Eddie and Susanna, are also fictional characters in a book. Like, canonically,
right. Are they going to encounter a bookstore that has the gunslinger?
It makes you question
and the drawing of the 3.
What is real? Because it gets very meta. Okay, so Callahan was a character in a book.
Are the worlds created by the author writing the book, or when the author writes the book, are they just syncing up psychically with another multiverse?
Well, and it implies that there's a way for them to be aware that they are a fictional character in a book that we are reading.
Mm-hmm.
And that would make them a self-aware character.
Right.
Who is helplessly experiencing the events in the book as if that itself is Ka. As if the hand of the author is Ka.
Yeah.
And so when Ka comes like a wind, it's literally just a plot point has arrived. And I must act in accordance with the way the author wants me to work.
The narrative force of the Dark Tower.
Which I think we talked about last time. Is that
was my that was my spin on Ka.
Right. And it made me feel a lot better because I got to tell you, I was mad at Ka. And so that helped. But the step back, the idea, the stranger than fiction moment, that these characters are aware that they're fictional, which Callahan only finds out at the very end.
Right.
Because he picks the book up and he's like, what? I'm not a character in somebody's story. I'm a real person. And
2 things can be true.
2 things can be true. And I do like that Roland went through that whole thing where he was like, you can't just pick and choose. You can't just find a door.
You can't aim a door at a specific time.
Like, you're being ridiculous. And then they find a door that they can aim at a specific time. And they decide they're going to buy the lot that has the symbolic representation of the Dark Tower, the rose.
because they must find the rose, the stone, and the unfound door. And they're all like, well, we're going to pay, market value for the lot. It's going to be great.
We're gonna get Susanna's money.
Yeah, we're really good. And then they're like, fuck it. No, we're going to buy it for the change in our pockets because Calvin Tower is going to be compelled to sell it to us.
Right. And I think Eddie pulls it off at the end where he makes a wager and Calvin Tower says, oh, I have this letter that my family's been holding on to for unknown amount of time.
Right.
And if you can tell me the name at the bottom of that letter that only I'm the only living person that's read this letter. If you can tell me the name on it, it's a deal. And Eddie's like, it's Deschain. It's either Stephen or Roland Deschain. And Calvin Tower's like, holy shit.
Oh, shit.
He knew the name.
Yeah. He opens it. I don't think he's ever opened it, but he opens it and it says, yeah. He's like, a man will come and I'm going to open it. And he's going to know the name without having to look at it.
Yeah.
He also beats the living crap out of a couple people that are trying to hurt Calvin Tower.
Yeah.
And then the first lengthy interaction that we've had with Calvin, because at this point we've met him when Jake got the books.
Right.
And that was pretty much it. So this is our first at length interaction with Calvin Tower. And I love that Eddie is like, wow, he's a moron. He's not a good guy.
He's not a savvy businessman.
He's not a good guy.
He's just been selling off his family's property to
buy
keep
books.
his bookstore afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like, well, you're going to sell me that lot. And he's like, I don't know. I don't really want to, because Calvin Tower's the kind of person that doesn't like to give anything up.
Yeah.
And in the end, he's like, I mean, I'll entertain the idea of transferring that lot to you if you save these books for me.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what happened to the cat. Remember there was a cat in the bookstore?
Just don't worry about it.
I shouldn't worry about it right now. That's probably not a good rabbit hole for me to go down right now. And this is where he finds the Hogan or the Dogan, the thing, the book
The type
by
Hogan.
Slightman. Right, which will... I need to drink my drink for a minute. Which really foreshadows the thing that happens with Jake, where he follows Benny's dad and Andy, the messenger robot, across the Devar TTY. Isn't it called the Devar TTY? It's the Y, but I think at this point it's it's literally diverted. And I think that's why they call it the Devar TTY, because I think it's the diverted Y.
Okay.
So he follows them across the river. They wander through the cactuses that are trying to fucking eat him. He has to shoo them away. And they end up at that building, and he gets in. And this is where, really more in this book than any previous book, the lines between fantasy and science fiction and Westerns, I guess, start to blur, because it's the shape of like a longhouse or a
Hogan,
a native dwelling. And yet inside is like a surveillance. It's video.
Yes.
It's dead computers and a wall of cameras, because there's cameras all over Calibran Sturgis. Who is watching the cameras?
Who put the cameras there?
Yeah. How long have they been there?
Who's maintaining the cameras?
Andy.
Probably Andy.
Andy. Yeah. Andy, messenger robot, many other functions. The many other functions is
C-3PO.
camera stuff, camera shit. And this is when we really start to see the nefariousness of what Andy is doing. The fact that
Right. He starts to slip because he thinks he's not being monitored.
he's only there with Benny.
Yeah.
And I do like at the end when they realize, everyone at the end realizes Benny Slightman is the bad guy. He's the one who's selling everybody out in exchange for his son.
And glasses.
And glasses. And I adore the moment when Roland is like, I could have forgiven you.
I could have said, you did this for the love of your son, and I totally understand it because I kind of have a son myself, and I do it for the love of him too. But you got glasses, bro. You didn't just do it for you. You did it for your own gain. And in the end, one of the only kids who dies is Benny's kid.
Yeah.
Benny Slightman, Jake's friend. Did you see the twist coming with what the things actually were?
As far as looking like Dr. Doom?
I mean, they look like Dr. Doom, but...
So pretty early on, my gut told me the wolves are robots.
Yeah.
And then Roland was like, gather round. I'm going to tell you what's up. They're vampires. And I was like, oh, man.
Well, that explains Callahan.
I felt really confident that they were robots because they all have horses the same color. They're not killable, but they come out during the day. So I was like, anyway. And then we find out it was all
a ruse.
Roland was
They're robots.
pulling the wool over our eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, aha! I was right. I was right to begin with.
And all the women have the weapons from Xena.
Oh, I did not connect that as Xena.
Well, hers is hollow in the middle, and theirs are like frisbees.
Yeah.
They're
I was thinking
razor
bladed
sharp
frisbees.
Frisbees. But do they do the...
Only Susanna.
They say Susanna lets out like a primal yell every time she releases it.
I like that.
Canonically, I'm pretty sure
that.
it's the sound that Xena makes. That's what I'm going with. And
I was trying to get the kids to watch Xena when we put the DVD players up in the bedroom the other day.
We will watch Xena.
I was
it
like,
is
hey,
formative.
You guys should watch Xena Warrior Princess.
Hi, kids. Would you like to know my mom is bisexual? Let me introduce you to a little thing called Xena, where we have Lucy Lawless. Somebody put up a thing that was like, am I bisexual or did I grow up watching Xena? And it was Lucy Lawless, and then it was all the men, like the guy who played Hades and the guy who played and I remember every time Kevin Sorbo would come over, like they'd have a crossover and Kevin Sorbo would be on Xena. It was like the trashy, ugly white dude among all these gorgeous, Australian Maori men that they put in the, muscular, dark, beautiful dudes, and then fucking Kevin Sorbo. And Lucy Lawless, who looked like she could probably break him. Yeah. It was so good.
There was on the topic of spectacles.
Okay.
There was a post on Threads I saved. The reason we don't view needing glasses like we do other disabilities is because the accommodation has become so accessible that people just live their lives. And we could, as a society, work towards that being the case for all disabilities instead of, I don't know, eugenics. And for eyeglasses to have become so rare and valuable that this guy betrays his entire society
for them
so that he can get eyeglasses.
But they can't be that rare because nobody remarks on them.
Right.
So where do they fall?
So is this like Turkish Delight in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Okay.
Where
I'm following you.
It was the Turkish the criticism comes up a lot. I had Turkish Delight and it tastes like shit.
Okay, but were you in the middle of World War II rationing at the time?
Well, so I remember it was like a Reddit post and someone was like, hey, literature professor here. There's actually some context around that. It's at the time, Turkish Delight, especially in England, was extremely common. And everybody knew it did not taste that great. So for for people who grew up knowing that Turkish Delight isn't all that great,
Yeah.
for what's
Edwin?
his name? Edward?
Edward.
For Edward to betray his entire family for Turkish Delight is actually an implication. Edmund. It's actually an implication that the Turkish Delight was enchanted.
Oh.
Not that
It's
it
better
was
than it had any right
actually
to
very
be.
tasty.
Because later they get a Eustace. That's what I always get confused with.
Okay.
Remember, is it Dawn
In the
Treader?
boat? Yeah.
They get
Voyage
Eustace.
of the Dawn Treader.
Yeah.
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 And so I wonder if the spectacles for
Slightman?
I wonder if the spectacles for Slightman
Yeah.
were enchanted like the Turkish Delight in Lion the Witch and the
Because they
Wardrobe.
had to be his exact right prescription.
It was
Because there's magic.
right.
There's magic and
It
technology.
was like a laser for cats. It's hyper stimulating,
Yeah.
right? Maybe these glasses were enchanted to be just hyper stimulating for Slightman.
Yeah.
And that's why an uncommon artifact,
Yeah.
spectacles, motivated him to betray his entire society.
Yeah. That and his son.
Yeah.
So, do you think that there's something connecting you and your brother that someone who ate mines could eat? Do you feel like you have some sort of psychic connection?
I don't know.
I mean, you both did have red hair. Did you choose that, or was that?
We sound very similar.
Was there a time? And the longer you're together, the more you sound the same.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our inflections synchronize.
Yeah, but do you feel like, as a child, maybe when you were younger,
Like one of us could get traded to the whatever.
well, you all do sort
Psychics.
of. You all, like, there's more than one of you. You and your brother do tend to make similar decisions, even though you are not maybe as much now as you did at one time.
Yeah.
But I feel like, all things being equal, you tend towards the same.
There are
outcome.
things where we had not talked for like a year. Like we bought the same boots.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All things being equal, you do tend towards the same outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And you have similar interests. I don't know. I think one of you could have been eaten, sent off and eaten, become ruined.
Yeah.
Aw. That's such a terrifying concept. And I love how we prep this entire book. They get all the women together. They teach the women how to throw the oriza.
Well, the women have already been teaching themselves.
Right, but they like gather the ones that can do it best. And they set up this whole thing where they dig ditches along the side of the road.
We're prepping that this is going to be this huge battle. But like I think you made the observation that it's kind of like when you're in
a video
like a
game.
single player RPG,
And you do all the
and
side
you do
quests.
all the side quests, and then
Yeah.
you get to the final boss, and you're way over leveled,
Yeah.
and it's surprisingly
it's 2
easy.
seconds long.
And then it's disappointing
Yeah.
how easy it was.
The description of how the Sneetches kill, though, is pretty disgusting because they like pop you like a blood bubble from the inside, and
Yeah.
then you're just being held together by your clothes.
Yep.
Which is horrifying. I think the main takeaways from this book were the Susanna thing. I do like how in the end, they just sit down and they have their moment.
We can talk about
We
this.
can talk about this. Exactly. We just watched the Buffy musical because it was late at night and I wanted something that was like
You
an hour
needed some
long.
comfort show.
And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to put the Buffy musical on. And it was such a brilliant way to clear the air because all the characters had this sort of miscommunication debt that had been building up.
They'd been doing the cheap conflict through either failure to communicate or misinterpretation of
Or like
communication.
deliberate withholding of information. And they needed to clear it all up so we could move forward. And they did the musical episode, and it was such a great way to organically get everybody to reveal stuff that they wouldn't necessarily reveal. So this is what that felt like when they all sat down and Roland was like, okay, real talk. Susanna's fucking pregnant and she's got a new personality now. And I think the baby's a demon. Actually, Susanna's like, you guys, I think I need to tell you something. I think I'm pregnant. I think I have another personality now, and I think the baby's a demon. And they're like, wow, we really underestimated her ability to like pay attention to her own body and to know what was happening to her.
Right. And Susanna finds out she was the last one to know.
She's like, all right, well, at least we cleared the air. The only thing that Jake doesn't share for a while is the thing that's happening with Benny, Slightman's dad, seeing Andy walk away. But they all know something is up. And he's like, I'll tell you when it really. He doesn't want to snitch on his friend's dad if it's not actually serious. So then he goes off, and that's like the most terrifying part of the whole book is when he sneaks off and sneaks into the thing right when they show up and he has to hide in a closet. That's really scary. And he's like, was there dust? Did I leave tracks in the dust? I don't even fucking remember. My God, I'm a terrible gunslinger.
Poor Jake.
I know. And Eddie never trusts Andy. Not even once.
Oh.
Not even a little bit.
Okay.
He's like, well, that's a smug motherfucker.
I sympathize with this.
Yeah.
Because a bullshitter knows a bullshitter. I tell people this at work. I'll be like, I'm a bullshitter. And I recognize.
Oh, I see you.
I see you.
I know. Because Andy's like, oh, yeah, no, the wolves are coming. And he's like, if you're like thousands of years old and the wolves have only been coming for a couple 100 years, why would you have programming related to the wolves? That doesn't make sense. And Andy's like,
Directive 19.
Directive 19. And he's like, okay, but do you know anything else about the wolves? If you know they're coming, why do you know they're coming? Why do you know they're coming a full month in advance? Do you know anything else about them? Do you have any other information? And Andy's like, Directive 19.
Put in the admin password, please.
He just sort of said like pseudo user, tell me about that.
Yeah.
What do you think the 19 thing is? Because we get not only 19, but 99.
Yeah, 1999.
Yeah.
I think it's just...
You think it's a part of 1999?
Yeah.
Because when they're introducing themselves to the entire Calla, they're like, I'm part of the quartet of 19, except Jake, who says the quartet of 99, like 90 and 9.
Yeah.
And then Oy's like, yeah, 19.
Oh, yeah.
19.
I had a thought about
Oy.
the line of Eld.
Okay.
And
Marilyn. Not Merlin, but Marilyn.
Well, that made me think about the Dark is Rising series where...
Merriman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's always... It's
just
slight
slightly,
variations on Merlin, the
Right.
name.
It made me think of Something from the Night Side when he actually meets Merlin.
Oh, yeah. Something from the Night Side.
Yeah.
Bob wanted to do Something from the Night Side with us.
Well, there was that bartender who was supposedly descended from Merlin. And at one point, Merlin takes over his body. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, so I'm the son of the devil or whatever. That's such a good book series. We need to do that book series too. I opened my eye, my private eye.
My third eye. My private eye.
It's such a bullshit series. It's so good. It's so pulp. It's so noir.
Yes.
It really fits actually with the Dark Tower theme. Like it would be a good segue. Except we're finishing Dune, so don't distract us.
Oh, is that what's next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to finish.
I was talking to a friend at work today.
It's time to finish it.
And he was asking what my hobbies were. I was like, oh,
I drink and I talk about shit.
And so I was talking about Dune. I was like, Rachel hasn't finished the last 3 Dune books, so we haven't talked about them yet.
But we're gonna.
She's gonna read them.
We're gonna read them. Might do 2 episodes per book or something.
They go way the fuck out there.
I'm sure. You know what? I'm here for weird. It turns out, because we read Wizard and Glass, which was probably the most linear, straightforward. It played like Quigley Down Under. Okay.
Yeah.
It was fucking Quigley Down Under. I just realized that at this moment in time. And it's just very straightforward. I'm a gunslinger. I show up. I fall in love with a woman. It creates problems.
I get things solved, whatever. Very straightforward. I hated it. I didn't like that book. I did not like Wizard and Glass.
Yeah.
This book is so weird. I loved every moment of Wolves of the Calla. Did I think the payoff at the end was not worth the buildup? Yeah. Did I care? Also, no. Because the weirdness.
Journey before destination.
He was on a roll. There's a line I want to read. When he's talking from the perspective of Callahan, he is on a roll. This was my favorite one. I had no hope of salvation. Never think it. But atonement isn't about salvation anyway. Not about heaven. It's about clearing your conscience here on earth. And you can't do it drunk. He's basically like, you can't. And then he goes, or maybe, gentlemen, you know what they say about priesthood. We're just a bunch of closet queers running around and shaking the cross in people's faces. Like, that's the end of that whole paragraph.
Yeah.
So he starts out really here, here, and then he ends up here. But that's fine. The one thing about Callahan I did want to discuss is this is the first glimmer of representation that we have had for someone.
Non-heteronormative representation.
Just the tiniest, barest glimpse, because he's like, I like that dude. I would have fucked that dude, but I'm not gay. Or maybe I am. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm pretty sure it was just that guy specifically. If you're thinking, about your own sexuality, if you think about a dude and you think, yeah, I'd hit that.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not straight.
What was I'm trying to remember the line, or I'm trying to remember who said this, but there was a line that was something like, I'm like spaghetti. I'm straight until I'm wet.
I'm just saying, Matt's probably the straightest guy that I know. And I'm sure it has never crossed, except for Henry Cavill, which is an entirely other entity. That's not even, because it's not even really a guy. He's like an idea.
Yeah.
And we'd all fuck that idea, okay? I would, Matt would, everyone would, okay? That's not the same thing. But I'm pretty sure you've never thought, yeah, I'd hit that. For anything that was not a woman.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, options open, but also, yeah. So, but I just thought that was really funny that he went there. And he went there with a guy named Lupe Delgado, as in Susan Delgado. Yeah. And they're all like,
what a tangled web.
But we never come back to it. We don't ever come back to it. No. But I was like, okay. All right. I was actually listening to that section, and I went back and found it in the book so that I could reread it, because I really wanted to wow, what was he trying to do there? And for what it was good. I liked Callahan's backstory. I liked that we got him fully fleshed out as a character, that he wasn't just this token drop-in, this cameo moment.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I existed in this book. And then I had a life beyond the book.
Right.
Because he drinks from Barlow, but it doesn't turn him into anything. It just gives him the sight to see.
He can see vampires.
He can see this whatever energy, kind of the same energy that Black 13 puts out.
Mm-hmm.
Because he also ends up with Black 13, which he just wakes up and Black 13 is with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wakes up here, and Black 13 is with him.
In Caliber and Sturgis?
Yeah,
or in
Caliber and Sturgis.
Okay.
And then he just put it underneath his chapel because it seemed like the best place to keep
it needed
all.
to be hidden.
Yeah. Which was interesting. And it was kind of waiting for Susanna. Because Susanna's the one who ends up using it to go where she wants to go at the very end.
Like the
Mia.
One Ring.
Really Mia, I guess. Yeah, like the One Ring. Yeah, there's a lot of references in this book. I don't know how I feel about it. Because we're also watching Babylon 5, and JMS is very much, J. Michael Straczynski, the writer, is very anti-referential because he wants it to be entirely his own thing.
Right.
I don't think Stephen King gives a shit. Stephen King is so his own thing.
This is kind of like a fantasy Western version of Ready Player One.
A little bit.
Not as
I can kind
overt,
of see that. Yeah.
but it's like, here's all of the inspiration of my writing history, my writing career.
Yeah.
These are all of the things that have inspired me as a writer, and I want to make a story about that. That's kind of what it feels like.
And they feel intentional, but also not intentional. Like, I want to know what the payoff for most of them are. Like, why Doctor Doom? Why Harry Potter? Why Star Wars?
Yeah.
I want to know, like, I guess that drives you to read the next book. Because there's not a cliffhanger, really, except that they haven't gotten to the Dark Tower yet.
Right.
I mean, and Mia runs off.
Yeah. Yeah, Mia runs off.
But I'll be honest, I care so little about what happens to her. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's because he's just not. Stephen King is not a good writer of female characters. I said it. He's a good writer. He's a good character writer. But I don't know that he's ever really nailed a female character. At least not I haven't read a lot of his newer stuff. So that's not to say, I think Stephen King is constantly improving. He reminds me of Brandon Sanderson in that way, where he'll write a book and
if you look at Elantris or the first Mistborn book, and compare it to like Rhythm of War, like holy shit,
right? I feel like he listens to his contemporary criticism and then he reflects, and then his next book is better based on his previous book, which I appreciate. I appreciate an author. You don't have to be too plugged in. There was a time when being plugged in was fine because you weren't getting hit with a million minor critics, a million Instagram accounts being like, Stephen King is terrible.
A million podcasters.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to tell Stephen King how to write.
Oh, yeah.
I will if I had to do it this way, here's how I would do it. But goddamn, I'm not Stephen King. I know that. I'll get it. Stephen King, get it. Okay. I'm just me. It's fine. I'm just saying, from my perspective, here's how I would have done it. Were I the writer?
I was talking, I write code for a living.
Yeah.
I evaluate code for a living. I execute code.
I do code shit.
Anyway, I was talking to somebody at work the other day about there's like the old guard at work, and they have strong opinions about a lot of things.
Many men do.
And how one person in particular, they are perceived as difficult to work with because you can say, okay, here's the solution. Here's how we implemented a solution to solve work around this problem. Like this constraint, this whatever. And their immediate reaction will be, well, that's not how I would do it.
Yeah.
And then that's not how I would do it dominates the discussion. Like, okay, I'm fine if your immediate response is, oh, that's an unexpected way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
The next step is, but it's working.
Yeah.
So let's continue.
Right.
Like there was a guy I worked with at a previous job. He was older guy. He'd been he started learning he learned from a coworker some basic programming stuff in like 1988.
Okay.
And then he kind of spent like early 90s refining his programming, I don't know, repertoire.
Acumen.
And then when I started working with him in 2016.
16.
Basically, he hadn't learned new programming concepts. He hadn't learned like the more high level stuff of here's a way to organize the code and whatever to be easier to read, to be easier to maintain and update. I've heard that called a cowboy coder.
Uh-huh.
They've just been a solo coder for literally decades.
Right.
They just keep,
They have no
they know a way
sounding
to
board.
solve their problems.
Yeah.
And to them, every problem.
Aw, Smokey's trying to be on the podcast like Pip used to be on the podcast. I want to break free.
Smokey, it's okay. What's going on, Smokey? Can you hear me?
Cowboy coders, Matthew.
Okay. I got distracted by Kitty. So every problem looks like I can solve this with Visual Basic 6.
Yeah. Because that's what I know. What is it to a hammer? Everything looks like a nail?
Yeah. When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
When you only know VB6, every programming problem can be solved with VB6.
I think
yeah,
you were
so
circling back to the concept of that's not how I would do it.
Right. Yeah. Getting stuck on that's not how I would do it.
Right.
And I would say this cowboy coder, the VB6 guy, he was extremely open to anyone who would teach him more about programming. And so we had a lot of long discussions about programming principles, and we reorganized a lot of his code so it could be in like reusable modules. And anyway,
I think there's
Smokey
something to
is
be
chewing the foam.
I think there's something to be said for knowing what criticism to pay attention to and to knowing what criticism is not coming from a place of attempting to help you improve. So to give you an example of what current authors are facing, like on Book Talk, there's this very popular author whose name is Allie Hazelwood. And she wrote a book that I read, and I think I may have talked to you about it while I was reading it, called Bride. And she's kind of a romantasy author. She's kind of a, she's not Stephen King. She's fine. She's fine for what she does. She does a good job. She's very popular. And she was on a panel, and someone asked her a question, and she replied that in the Hunger Games, Peeta was a useless character.
I think I just saw that recently.
And she got bullied off of social media. She
What?
received so much hate and so much criticism that she ended up having to leave social media platforms.
Wow.
Because people were angry that she had insulted a fictional fucking character. Although I don't know, maybe he exists in Midworld somewhere. And he was really sad when she said that he was useless. I'll be honest, I've only read the first Hunger Games book.
I agree.
But I felt like he
That
was worthless in the books.
PETA is a plot device
Right.
for Katniss to, like, I don't know,
Oh,
show
great.
competency.
Now
as
we're
going to
get bullied off of. Wow, wait, I'm already not on social media. But the point here is that's some bullshit. Okay, I don't care how you feel about PETA. I don't care how you feel about the Hunger Games. The point is not the Hunger Games. The point is not Allie Hazelwood. The point is that is the culture that we're currently
canceling
working with.
people for having a controversial opinion about like literary interpretation.
Right. And she literally let herself be
Bruh.
bullied off. So here's an alternative to that. One of my favorite authors of all time, Jay Kristoff, wrote a book series, the first of which is called Nevernight.
Yeah.
And when I was getting ready to get a tattoo from Empire of the Vampire, I spent some time reading up on Jay Kristoff because I'm not about to put a problematic
Just
author
to make sure he wasn't
on my arm.
scandalous.
Right. And although my tattoo could easily be taken simply as what it is, it doesn't necessarily need context, I wanted to make sure that I knew that I wasn't putting anything problematic on my body. So I spent some time reading up on Jay Kristoff, and I have seen him referenced as a problematic author before. So I looked it up, and he wrote a book series called Nevernight, where the main character is a teenager, a sexually active teenager. And so he gets
criticized somewhat legitimately for his first book series where he based it on, he said it in Japan, but his only experience with Japan is anime. And he has since been like, yeah, that wasn't, I'm sorry. Like that was some bullshit. I'm sorry. But people didn't feel like he apologized
hard enough
correctly.
Oh.
And then the Nevernight series, he gets a lot of flack for because she's a young sexually active character. And I would like to point out that I have read books where a 16-year-old gets raped by like a neuromancer, homunculus type character, and it is framed as romantic. Yeah.
Necromancer.
Yeah.
Not neuromancer.
No, necromancer. Thank you. No, sorry. So somebody was talking to me about William Gibson the other day. It must still be in the cache. But no, I have literally read books with non-consensual sex with
a minor.
With a minor.
Yeah.
That are published and that they're not, nobody's crying from the rooftops about it. And I read Nevernight. I'm in the middle of reading Nevernight, and the character may be teenage, but it's an entirely different world where time is different.
Right. Where Kate talks about
her actual chronological age may be different, but what I'm getting at here is he gets a lot of criticism for it.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he markets Nevernight is by putting up snips of reviews bashing Nevernight.
I think you should have sent me that. Yeah.
He's like, it's time again, kids. We're going to talk about why everybody hates this book. And he totally makes it into this, like, you can't, I'm not receiving it. I don't give a shit.
And that's a workable strategy.
Right.
For that is to say, I'm going to use you trying to cancel me as a PR tactic.
Right. So that's the flip of the coin of what's happening to Allie Hazelwood. And then somewhere in the middle, you have Stephen King and Brandon Sanderson, where they're not writing. Okay, they're sometimes writing fairly problematic books, but what they are getting is criticism like, hey, I don't feel like your female characters are fully fleshed out. And they're like, okay, talk to me about it. And
Brandon Sanderson has developed a reputation for being extremely receptive to constructive feedback.
The key word in that was constructive.
Yes.
We have lost sight of the value
of
constructive criticism.
Right. And dismissing the trolls.
Yeah, that not all criticism is an attack. Right. Sometimes I'm asking a question because I'm trying to get you to think about it, because I'm trying to get you to flesh out the thing that you're thinking about.
You want to talk about someone who says things in a provocative way under the concept of provocative, where I'm trying to provoke something in you. The kids are sick of me.
Your kids?
My kids are sick of me.
Oh, well.
Your kids are sick of me, too.
That's why our daughter starts going, why are you like this?
Dad, why are you like this? If there's a day that I don't get a, Dad, why are you like this?
You failed.
That's a loss.
Yeah.
Today I did not get a, Dad, why are you like this?
Well, you didn't interact with her enough today.
Yeah.
You'll come around to it.
I worked late today, and they were having a YouTube day.
The question just to bring it back to the book.
Oh, right. We're talking about a book.
Right. I could wax nostalgic about the death of the creative criticism forever and ever and ever. Because as someone who is highly critical, I am an extremely critical person, but not in a negative context.
Analytical critical.
I'm listening to you. I'm engaging in what you're saying to me.
Right.
And I have a critical in terms of, like, I've thought about it. I've picked it apart. I have clarifying questions.
Yeah.
I am often seen as attacking people. It is a problem for me. What I'm trying to show you is I'm engaging in the conversation. I'm engaging in your subject matter. I'm interested. I want to know more. But what it comes off as is I'm criticizing you. I'm picking your thing apart because I don't like it. I think anyone who's listened to any time that I talk about a TV show, it should be highly evident that I cannot just fucking watch anything. I will I will drill down through any plot hole like a cavity. I can't help it. I can't turn that off. It is how I engage with subject matter.
Yeah.
But I am always coming at it from a constructive point of view. Sell me on it. Tell me about it. Describe it to me. Help me to understand where you're coming from so that we can be on the same page. But to bring it back to Wolves of the Calla, what do you think the point is of having Jake go through that whole thing at the end where he has to save those children? Do you think there's a narrative purpose to that? Or do you think he just felt like his ending was rushed and he needed to add a little bit of extra drama?
The fourth ideal of the Windrunners.
Oh, no. Okay, go for it. Bringing Brandon Sanderson back here, I guess.
I accept that there will be those I cannot protect.
No, remember when he runs off?
When he's following...
And on the way back, he has Benny with him. And then he has...
Stylesbury?
Slightman. Benny Slightman.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's running off with Benny. And there's those twins. And the one twin slips and gets stuck in a hole, gets their foot stuck in a hole. And he ends up having to rescue them.
Yeah.
And they only get under cover at the last minute. You know what this feels like? This feels like there is definitely a period of time in Stephen King's life, in Stephen King's writing career, where he knew everything that he wrote was going to get made into a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And so he becomes extremely cinematic, where everything is laid out as if you're going to be able to see it on screen.
Yeah.
So this feels like that moment at the end where you're like, go, kid, go! Just fucking leave that bitch! That's exactly what that feels like. It also feels to me like he knew his ending was rushed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so he was trying to
So he was really
out.
trying to, because the only real moment, like tension moment at the end is that moment, is the moment that we have with Jake. Because other than that, they just sort of stand up, they shoot all of the bad guys.
Right.
At one point, they have to shoot a sneech or two.
Mm-hmm.
But they handle it, and it's fine.
Because they're fucking gunslingers.
Because they're fucking... And the Ariza lady, the one lady dies, and Benny dies.
Yeah.
And that's it. End of line. And then he's like, well, excellent job, gunslingers. We'll be on our way, gentlemen. Where's Susanna? Oh, she's fine. She's safe.
And Jake lost his best friend.
Yeah. His only friend.
His only friend.
Yeah.
His only similarly aged friend. Like his only peer that he has formed an emotional connection with.
I liked how they framed his that they've become friends
Liquefied.
in the only way that little boys can.
Mm-hmm.
The quick, we're best friends now.
Yeah.
And then, his friend gets liquefied in front of him.
Yeah.
Because he panics and bolts out of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake has said several times, he's like, wow, he's older than me, but he seems a lot younger than me. And that's
which complements Roland's observations of Jake.
Yeah,
which is
older than
I'm forcing him to grow up way too fast.
Yeah.
And I regret that. That's probably Jake's situation, I think, is the only thing that Roland regrets.
That and not knowing his way forward with Susanna.
Right. And I think Roland's sense of regret around forcing Jake through the gunslinger
training regimen.
What's the word for you have to push hard through something torturous?
Gauntlet.
Yeah, he's
the gunslinger gauntlet.
The gunslinger gauntlet. That's the thing about Lovecraft's books.
Yeah.
Primarily take place in coastal New England. Specifically Boston.
Ah.
So every character should have a strong Boston accent. And it was like, these are horrors beyond our imagination.
What would Cthulhu be in a Boston accent? Cthulhu. Oh my God.
The horror.
The horror.
The horror. Wow. It fits. Stephen King's all takes place in Maine, right?
Yeah.
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 So
I mean,
New
they're-
England.
they're
New
even
England
strong-
is a hotbed of horrors.
Bahaba.
It's a
I've been to Bahaba.
It's a hotbed of horrors, is what it is
Yeah.
up there. Yeah.
Horrors of
We interviewed
English pronunciation.
we interviewed that guy that was making a movie about the first state of terror because Delaware is like
Oh,
the,
that's right.
and so they
yeah.
were making a bunch of small vignettes about all of the random crypto characters that take
Yeah.
place in New England.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild. Maybe that's where Midworld is. I don't know. We were in Topeka last time, so we could be anywhere at this point. We didn't talk about how Andy dies. I don't understand why
Gets
they
his
had.
eyes shut out.
I
Right?
don't understand why they had to lock him in the toilet in order to. Because they shoot his eyes and he's like, I'm blind. And I happen to be listening to the podcast, or not the audiobook. And of course, the audiobook narrator is knocking it out of the park.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but for Went Through the Keyhole, Stephen King chose to read his own book. And while I am normally supportive,
Bold choice.
I am normally supportive of an author reading their own book. I did not know Stephen King sounded like that.
Okay.
I don't know what I thought Stephen King sounded like, but it wasn't that. He kind of sounds like yes.
Yeah, he has a little.
What do you think, Roland? He just sounds like a terrible nerdy guy who likes. I like to watch horror movies sometimes. It was so hard to listen to. But anyway, the audiobook narrator is knocking
Okay.
Andy out of the park. But it's
Audiobooks-
so loud.
Audiobooks narrated by their authors.
Oh, I'm sure there's lots because usually autobiographies will be narrated by the author. And every once in a while, he who should not be named, but whose name sounds like gay man,
Yeah,
he would read.
he's two instances in the top 5.
Yeah. He read
As
the Graveyard
You
Book
Wish, Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride.
for a minute.
Read by Carrie Elways
Well, that's different.
and Rob Reiner
That's
for
different.
the foreword.
I would read that. I saw Carrie Elwes in person. I watched the Princess Bride with Carrie
I know
Elwes.
why the caged bird sings. Read by Maya Angelou.
Okay, well, Maya can do it. Stephen King, I'm just saying.
I'm trying to find like a fiction story.
I kind of feel like a horror author should stay behind the curtain. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
can see that.
It's kind of like the monster in Empire Strikes Back. It's way better if you never see it. It's way more terrifying in your mind.
Which one?
The very beginning, the ice monster guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My favorite part is that somebody made a Flash animated thing at one point, which has disappeared into the ether of the internet. But it was where he was like, "Oh no, come back, buddy!" And it was just what's his name?
It comes back on.
I can stick
I
it back
can
on,
stick
and
it
he like
back on.
licks his arm stump and sticks it back on his arm, and he's like, "See, it's already back. We could definitely be friends." And it just
oh
like
my God, I'm
slides.
so lonely. Yeah.
Well, I forget what that thing's name is. At one point, I could have told you, but I've divested myself of Star Wars. Unhoth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all that aside, that scene in the audiobook is so loud. It's in all caps in the book, so I get it. I get why they did it, but he's like, I'm blind. I'm blind. It's so loud.
And there's a conflation between capitals as volume versus capitals as emotiveness.
And the pacing in this whole end section was so strange. Because this scene with Andy felt like it went on forever. Because Eddie shoots out his eyes. And then he thinks long, in-depth thoughts about what the password could be. Because he asks Andy a question. And Andy is like, he tells Andy to shut down.
Yeah.
And Andy's
With the
like,
password.
okay, tell me the password. He's like, 19. Ha! I knew it. And Andy's like, incorrect.
And he
You
goes,
have 2 more
okay,
attempts.
99. And he's like, nope, incorrect. And he's like, oh, shit. And then it feels like 17 chapters of Eddie being like, and then one day I woke up and I realized that the password that I thought I knew was not the password that it was.
But
And now I shall think the deep thoughts.
pieces that he had used must be partially correct.
Because he hesitated.
Otherwise, right, because there was a delay in saying yes
Correct.
or no.
Right. But it takes forever. And finally he's like, okay, shut down 1999 is the password. And it works. But then he does the same announcement that we heard from the bear way forever ago. The Lamarck
when
Industries
the nuclear cell is
shutting down, whatever. And it's like loudly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why. I just don't understand the timing or the location of all that. They went through this whole thing where they reinforced it. They put a lock on the door, knowing that Andy would just be able to break his way out, and he does. And they end up shutting him down, which works because Andy is the spy for
the wolves.
And then it's like we hit fast forward again, and then all of a sudden everyone's running around, and Roland's like, okay, kids, you're going to go up that road. The first group's going to leave, and then the next group's going to leave, and you're going to just go, blah, 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 and then you're going to turn around, you're going to come back, and you're going to go over there, and you're going to lay in the rice, and we're going to be over here. And then it's Jake, and Jake's like, oh no, my friend has fallen in the hole. I should probably fix this in slow motion. And he does. And then the ending is like, and then we killed all the wolves, the end.
Yeah.
The pacing was very, it felt like a slinky. When you push a slinky together and then you pull it apart. It didn't feel like we ramped up and we stayed in that moment of tension. It felt like we kept getting interrupted by these long narrative passages. And I'm wondering if that was intentional because he was trying to draw the ending out. I bet he said it to the editor, and the editor was like, Steve, it's 900 pages of people singing about sex when you think they're singing about rice. And then the book ends. And he was like, yeah, that's the book. They were like, it needs a real ending. And he was like, fucking fine. And he just drew it out. And then he's like, okay. And then Susanna runs off. And doesn't she get an electric tricycle at some point? Somebody leaves out a way for her to get to the door faster than they do.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, she gets basically on an ATV.
And we met Randall Flagg again. We talked more about Randall Flagg.
Did we meet him?
I'm not sure we met him again. We definitely talked about the Crimson King.
Yes. Yeah,
several
they talked
times.
about him.
And that there are creatures of legend living in Thunderclap. Like creatures that eat mental energy. And maybe vampires and robots and all kinds of crazy stuff. So maybe all the horrors from every universe all exist in one place. And it might be Thunderclap. Which makes me excited to read the next book.
They get attracted to certain places in the Dark Tower.
Susanna has fucked off to go have her baby.
Yeah.
Mia. Because Susanna knows Mia is taking over.
Yep.
And she's like, give me control for this last little bit.
Like, lay off for a few minutes so I can help my quartet. And if you do that, I will help you have your baby.
And Mia's like, deal. Sold. Done. And she not only opens the door, she takes the key with her. She takes Black 13
with her so they cannot follow her.
Black 13 almost kills Eddie, too.
Yeah.
Eddie almost jumps off the side.
Yep.
What do we think? Do we think that the Wizard's Rainbow is a reference to anything? Wizard of Oz.
Let's see.
Like
13.
Over the Rainbow? Because we've met Pink and Black, and we had the Emerald City where he met maybe Martin, maybe Randall Flagg. I'm still confused about the Martin thing in the past. I should have not read.
Yeah. Martin and W name?
Walter?
Walter. Martin and Walter. And there's a line in one of the books where Roland says the past is changing.
Yeah.
So that the things he remember, his memories are changing.
It all feels so meta because it's like Roland knows that Stephen King is editing previous books.
It's an in-lore,
yeah,
compliant retcon.
Yeah. Of why the past would now be different, of why the previous books would be edited and re-released.
The top-down narrative enforcement.
Yeah.
Narrative.
Whatevs.
Pressure is changing, retconning the past to make the present narrative more cohesive.
Okay.
But Roland has memories of a different past and the retconned past. So then when we read The Gunslinger, we have the two versions of The Gunslinger, the two publications.
And they're both canon.
One has Martin and Walter as separate characters, and the other one, Martin and Walter, are the same character.
Which one is the one that you read? Which is the one that they're all based on now? Are they the same character or are they separate?
The most recent version of The Gunslinger that I read.
Okay.
In my chronology.
Okay.
Was a paperback of the original publication.
Okay. So it's the one that I read.
When the first time I personally, in my personal chronological history, the first time that I read The Gunslinger was I listened to the audiobook of the newer publication.
Okay.
So my original exposure to The Dark Tower was Martin and Walter are the same person.
Okay.
And then I read the paperback.
And they're two separate
people.
Where
they're two separate people.
Okay. So they're canonically in the edited version, they're the same person.
In the edited version, they are the same person.
So who did he talk to who died?
It just looked like he died. And he left a skeleton behind.
Okay. I actually think it's not that. I think Walter and Martin used to be the same person and he split them so that Walter could die and Martin could continue on.
Bruh.
You know what'll clear this up? When I go to read Song of Susanna and the entire foreword is the foreword that's been in every single book previously. And it describes, it breaks it down for you like, hey, just in case you forgot, let me lay it out.
Okay.
The biggest conceit of Wind Through the Keyhole, before you go on whatever bullshit you're about to go on, is at the beginning, he's like, yeah, you can read this as a standalone novel. The fuck world? Can you read this as a standalone novel? And then it's like, oh yeah, no, you can read it as a standalone novel if I give you the next 6 pages of spoilers for The Dark Tower. Here you go, you fucking ready? I can't. Stephen King. Stephen, look me in the eye. Look me in the eye. You cannot spoil shit like that. Okay, Steve? You spoiled Heinlein for me. I read an entire book that I knew how it was going to end because you told me about it in The Dark Tower. I do not read books mentally prepared to get spoilers for other fucking books.
Okay, I was about to retort that when you get stressed reading a book, you read the last 50 pages.
I can choose to spoil myself, but don't spoil me. Okay, that's different.
You need the autonomy.
Yes, I need to be able to make the decision for myself.
Of choice.
Yeah, because sometimes I don't see the twist coming, and those are the best times.
Right.
99% of the time, I know. I can tell you 10 pages in how the book is going to end.
Yep.
My pattern recognition should probably be studied.
Point.
On point, okay? But when I do get a twist, it's like, oh, I wouldn't have known necessarily reading The Door to Summer how it was going to end.
Gorgeous.
That was the book that I read. That was
that was
Robert
the Heinlein
Heinlein.
book? Yeah.
There's nothing in the beginning that would have indicated to me that he would have. About 30-ish pages in, weird things start happening.
Mm-hmm.
His car disappears. Things disappear that no one knows where they went. That would have given me like a, is he going to travel back in time? But I'm not necessarily sure I would have been like, oh, slam dunk, he's going to travel in time.
Mm-hmm.
But he does. And I knew he was going to. And so as soon as that popped up, I was like, oh, that's just him from the future. Because Stephen King spoiled it for me in the middle of a book that was written like 20 years ago. It's fine. It's fine. So anyway.
But on the idea of a recap at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, which is what he does at the beginning of every book.
Right. So Death Stranding 2 just came out.
Yes.
Which Death Stranding 2, there's this guy, Hideo Kojima, game designer, whatever. He just keeps doing things in video games that become really popular.
Yeah. Didn't he do Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah. So he did Metal Gear Solid, and his like revolutionary thing at the time was a camera that follows the character. And they were like, on the PlayStation 1, you can't just like have the camera be mobile. And he's like, nah, you're going to figure it out.
Right.
Anyway, he's kept up his bullshit, and
as should we all.
I just finished Death Stranding, the first one, like 3 or 4 months ago.
A bit ago. Yeah.
And then Death Stranding 2 just came out like June 28th, June 26th. And
recently.
Yeah. So I've been playing it, and there's a meme that I see, I don't know, a few times a year. It's basically, man, they should add a I have a busy life mode to video games, so that every time you like log back into the video game,
it'll
it
tell you
says,
where you were at.
Oh, hey, by the way, here's everything that's been happening. Let me catch you up, because you're an adult with a busy life. You only get a few hours to game a week or a month or whatever. Yeah. And you've lost the plot since the last time you played. So here's what you just did. And here's a menu where you can scroll through all the story points that you've recently activated. That's built into Death Stranding 2.
It's amazing.
Every time I log in, it's like, boom. Here's what you just did. Here's your current active mission. And here's a list of plot points that you can scroll back through to figure out what you've been up to for the last 5 hours of gameplay.
Well, you know who else has got you? Steven's got you.
Steven's got us.
Every time you start a Dark Tower book, it's like, hey, bro.
Recap.
Hey, bro. It's also been 30 years since I wrote this shit. So let me go ahead and break it down for you. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate it, especially when you get into something like Wind in the Keyhole, where the references are so minute that you would miss them if you didn't get that recap.
Right.
But I don't want to talk about Wind in the Keyhole because we're going to talk about that for the next podcast.
Woohoo.
But I feel like this was a good wrap up. Was there anything we alluded to the idea that we probably need to discuss what this whole Wizard's Rainbow thing? I think it's a Wizard of Oz reference. If I really had to, but there's not 13 colors in the rainbow?
I can.
I'm sure.
I'm a bullshitter.
I know.
Can bullshit.
I can see you reeling. I can see you
okay.
spooling it up.
How about this?
Okay.
In the rainbow, there are 7 colors.
Yeah.
13 is double 7 minus 1.
Is it? Wow.
Okay.
You just blew my mind, brah.
I'm making it up as I go.
Always. Always. I think.
So, one color in the rainbow only gets represented once.
Okay. But there's got to be 12 others.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're
Light
like,
and dark versions
out.
of each color.
I'm out.
Well, okay. Here's
Maybe
what I was.
we're gonna get
Here's
more.
what I was thinking. Archetypes.
Okay.
Archetypes are kind of personality traits ish,
Yeah.
but they get split on the positive and negative,
Bitter and sweet.
the bitter and sweet.
Okay.
Check out our Murderbot podcast for that context. So you get the positive and negative aspects of each like personality trait, facet, whatever. And let's say 6 of the colors you get positive and negative attributes for,
Okay.
but then one of them
Is only negative.
maybe not negative, maybe integrated
Okay.
into
Black
one.
13 has integrated its own shadow.
Positive and negative together.
Okay. That's why you can use it for your own purposes if you keep your
That's
head on
why
straight.
it's not like the genie's wish,
Okay.
where every time you make a wish, it's the most harmful interpretation of that wish possible.
Right.
Black 13 is the most dangerous because it can actually be helpful.
I will say that Ka had such a heavy hand role in this particular book that this is the one that I was like, okay, Steve, Ka's getting a little bit much. And the biggest one was they knew he had Black 13 and they were like, wow, we found this disembodied door in this cave.
Mm-hmm.
Black 13 opens it. Black 13 opens it.
Into gut instinct.
Their immediate reaction is like, oh, I know what I need to do. I need to take Black 13 up there, crack it open, think about the time that I need to go to, and go. They even say in this book, coincidence has been canceled. We don't do coincidences anymore.
It's like in a video game.
Is it because they're getting closer to the Dark Tower?
I got these key items.
Yeah, one of these.
And I encounter a mysterious thing. What combination of my key items will enable this thing
Which I'm
to do the
content
plot?
with in a video game.
Right.
Because generally we're following some sort of
But
destiny.
the closer you get to the Dark Tower, the more
gamified the world becomes.
overt the narrative influence is.
That, you know what, why do you keep giving me the exact right thing that I need to be like,
You're welcome.
you got it. That's right. I feel so much better now. Instead of.
Because, hold on,
Okay.
I'm a bullshitter.
As has been established. Yes. Yeah. So normally I would say that drawing closer to the center of the breakdown would create more chaos. Maybe coming closer to the middle is creating more order.
More of the order that has been experienced by Midworld historically.
We need to do video podcasts because we fucking point at each other.
Woo! Hands all
Everyone
over the
would
place.
know why there's microphone hitting sounds from you all the time. Don't. Anyway, yes, more influence of the narrative over the lives of the characters.
Right,
The
which
more
is the
they're-
thing that has been weakening
Yeah.
and thus unraveling the world, unraveling reality.
Unraveling.
Because the Dark Tower is holding all the things together. You know what this reminds me of?
Okay.
Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman.
Oh, the Death Gate
Deathgate cycle.
Death Gate cycle. I knew you were going to say it.
Where they...
I think about that every time there's a necromancer. I think about that every time. I read the Gideon the Ninth.
Oh, man, that series was so good.
I read Gideon the Ninth, and I just couldn't get it out of my head because there's an entire planet that is nothing but dead people, like resurrected dead people. Wow, I'm gonna spoil. I'm so sorry. I just went on a thing about not spoiling.
I think that's not.
No, it's a big reveal.
Well, okay, it's a big reveal as to the impact.
Yeah.
Of
Here's a
all the dead
spoiler
people.
for a 35-year-old fantasy novel series by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. It's the Deathgate cycle, and it's post-nuclear war. And nuclear war gave us like superpowers. And so
gave us superpowers, and it drew out the elves.
right. And it created a circumstance where we had to split the world into
We had to
different worlds.
Yes, we had to disassemble
Yeah.
the world into 7 worlds.
And then the magical beings
And
were
then
like, great, we're going to go to sleep
magical
for a bit.
system had to artificially support, like add structure
And it's all falling
around
apart.
each of the 7 worlds
Yeah.
to maintain those 7 worlds as these split apart elements.
Right.
And so you have
air world, water world ish. And there were magical beings. They went to sleep thinking they could wake up like 1,000 years later.
after everything's sorted out.
Maybe re-up the spells, maybe reunite, just kind of let everything play out.
There's so much symbolism. There's so much like archetypal meaning.
And Zifnab, obviously.
And Zifnab,
Zifnab's always in
who's
it. He's Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman's
crossover
character. But one of our main characters.
That's Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman's Randall Flagg.
It is. It is correct. Yeah. Or Hoyd.
Or Hoyd.
Yeah.
From the Cosmere.
Right. So our main character wakes up, and he is the last living member. No one else wakes up.
He comes out of his hibernation pod.
No one else
in a
is
room
alive.
with hundreds of other hibernation pods.
Where everyone is
Thousands of
dead.
other hibernation pods.
Where everyone is dead.
Everyone, including his wife,
I know.
is dead.
And we don't find out for a long time why they all died. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that because you know what? Go
That's
find
your
it.
hook.
It's a great book series.
Mhm.
Every single book takes place in a different world.
That was a formative book series for me.
I read a lot of it. I read almost all of it. I got all the way to, I think the one where we meet, is it Haplo?
So Haplo, that I was going to bring that up when we were recording Babylon 5 yesterday. And we got talking about Boat of a Million Years.
Okay.
And in Boat of a Million Years,
isn't there a Haplo?
One of the first POV character is Haplo.
Yeah.
And he's like a Phoenician ship worker or whatever.
Yeah.
But Haplo means
man, right?
alone.
Oh, alone. Oh, it's like Nemo.
And so that's why. Yeah.
Oh.
And so Haplo in the death. So I read the Deathgate cycle, and then I read Boat of a Million Years, which
you're like, oh yeah, Haplo again.
A guy I knew, like one of the scoutmasters from my scout troop.
Oh my God, did they read the entire Boat of a Million Years? I think if you can make it all the way through Boat of a Million Years, you ascend to a higher plane of knowledge. Because no one in the history of ever has made it all the way through Boat of a Million Years.
I read most of the Deathgate cycle, and then I read Boat of a Million Years, and I was like, oh shit, Haplo means alone.
No. Get it right. You didn't read Boat of a Million Years. You read most of Boat of a Million Years.
Most of a Boat.
Because you cannot actually read the entire book.
The first 10% of Boat of a Million Years gives you the Haplo character.
Yes, correct. You don't have to get deep into it to get
then
it. No, but I just wanted to clarify you didn't
go back
finish
and reread the Deathgate cycle, and you realize, oh, this character is Haplo because he's alone.
Yeah.
He's the first one to escape the labyrinth.
Yeah. It's a good series anyway. Go read it. And if you read the entire Boat of a Million Years, if you have read the entire Boat of a Million Years, what's it like? What's it like to have ascended? Like, what is it like up there? Is it different? Is the air different? Are the colors brighter? I need to know because I couldn't do it. I have read all of Sarah J. Maas. I have read
You're a big chunk of the way through a second reread.
I am in progress reading Sarah J. Maas for a second time. And if you have listened to any of Feast, Sheath, and Shatter, you will understand why that is like driving hot bamboo stakes under my own fingernails. I have read it, okay? And I could not make it through Boat of a Million Years. I couldn't. Nothing could induce me to even try again.
That was pre-podcast. Do you think
I don't
you
know
could
that-
do
no.
it for the podcast?
No.
Not
The
even for
first-
the pod?
No, the first 75% of the book, you're like, hell yeah. That's
Yes.
a really cool concept. I fucking love this.
I think you could say you could take the book
Okay.
and then I remember all the immortal characters getting like assembled when one of them is working with the biologist guy
Uh-huh.
and he's trying to isolate what is it that makes us immortal. And he has a bunch of them
I think you
assembled,
made that up in your mind because I don't think that that's a part of the book. But go
and
ahead.
they're doing like DNA breakdown stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then you skip forward, everyone's immortal.
Yeah.
You could end it there.
You could.
And it would be a much more approachable book.
Yeah. I think so. Because
I
once
think the value is in the exploration of in Earth societies, like specific like epochs or eras in Earth societies, what would it be like being an immortal person?
I liked it for the same reason that
That
I like
was-
Man from Earth.
It was the exploration of the human
Yes.
condition.
Yeah, Man from Earth
Yeah.
is an excellent movie. You can find it on pretty much every streaming service. It is an elevator movie. It's a bunch of people in a room having a conversation about what it would be like to be immortal. How would you prove you were immortal? What would it actually be like? What would the consequences through time be of you being immortal?
Mhm.
There is a sequel, and it's okay. It's a little bit more action oriented, I guess. A little bit more like, is he really Jesus though?
It's not as good.
Could he be Jesus though? It's fine. It's not horrible. It's fine. But the first one is great. It's a revelation. The conversation that they have is
Chef's
amazing.
kiss.
Perfect. A thought piece. It's an excellent thought piece. I
It's
liked that.
Extremely provocative.
Yes, I liked it for
It
this.
provokes thought.
And I like the first part of Boat of a Million Years for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to talk about Boat of a Million Years on every single, you know how many times we have brought that book up? I think someone should go back and tell me. But you know what? Honestly, I think it's because I'm enamored with the concept and he didn't stick the landing.
I think the Boat of a Million Years contains, I guess, the first 3/4 of the book. Up until if you get to the point where, oh, they figured it out, they've unlocked immortality, everybody is immortal. Everything before that in the book, you get so much exploration of lots of different like human societies and cultures and whatever, and it's all handled very respectably in my recollection.
Yeah,
My
it's
recollection.
Fine. It's fun.
I think that story contains so many elements of the exploration of immortality compared against human nature,
Yeah.
the human condition, that you are constantly looking for in vampire stories.
Correct. Yes. That's why I liked the
But
first part.
that vampire stories typically don't actually explore.
Right, because it's all about the I'm too bad. I'm
got teeth.
I got rather sharp, pointy teeth.
Sex metaphor,
Sex metaphor.
right? When there's
Correct.
so much more
I
to
know.
explore in the vampire mythology.
No, you are preaching to the choir.
So,
But I'm just gonna.
should we cover Boat of a Million Years for the
You
podcast?
think we can finish it? I want to know what the air is like up there.
Do
I
we
wanna know.
need to finish it to cover it on the
Is
podcast?
it actually possible to finish it?
Mm.
So, on that note, I'm just going to reel us back here to Wolves of the Calla.
Oh, right. We were talking about Wolves of the Calla.
Do you think what we're saying is we're enamored with the concepts that have been presented in the Dark Tower series, and that is what is propelling us forward at this point?
I think Roland would fit in extremely well with the Immortals.
I'm in
Boat
this
of a
for
Million
Roland
Years.
at this point.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm in this for Roland because he has done such. Roland is the
like
character I like. And
Roland.
Jake.
Well, I
And
was
Oi.
thinking Roland and Eddie.
You know what? I liked Eddie better in this book, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you why. It's because this audiobook editor didn't give him a cartoon New York accent.
A caricature of a New York accent.
Of a New York accent. Yeah. I was thinking, oh wow. Thank you.
He comes off as a lot less
cartoonish,
goofy, and much more worldly.
It's strategic in his use of his nonsense.
Jaded and worldly.
Right. Like he's still on his bullshit, but it feels more strategic.
Right. Like one must imagine Sisyphus happy.
Yeah.
One must imagine Eddie as humorously cynical.
Yeah. Well, Eddie is more thoughtful and more intelligent.
Right. He's as cynical as before, but the objective of the cynicism is to find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, we really see
not so much as like depression angle.
Right. He's a realist.
Yeah.
Well, we really see it when we go back to Calvin Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And he confronts those bad guys in the back room and saves Calvin Tower. And he's scary as shit. Like he's actually threatening. And then he walks up to Calvin and he's like, here's what you're going to do, bro.
It's like the Murderbot books versus the Murderbot TV show.
Yeah.
Where in the Murderbot books, we never doubt for a second that Murderbot has the best interest of his clients at heart.
Yeah.
But in the TV show, we get a lot of scenes where we get to see how fucking scary Sec Unit is.
Yeah.
From the perspective of the Preservation Alliance.
Well, Eddie tackles that guy and he's like, if you don't deliver my message, if I find out that you haven't done what I asked, I will find you, I will murder you, I will murder your wife, and I will murder your children.
Yeah.
And Calvin is like,
Calvin believes it.
Calvin's like, you wouldn't have really murdered his children, would you? And Eddie's like, what answer do you want from me? And Calvin's like, I want you to say no. And he's like,
right. And that's when we see, Eddie's a gunslinger.
Yeah,
now.
Eddie would have fucking murdered the children.
Yeah.
Whatever was required.
Yep.
To save the rose, to save the tower.
Yep.
He's like, how do you want me to answer? And
to save reality.
He's like, I want you to reassure me. And Eddie's like, okay, then. No, I wouldn't have killed the children. And he's like, but you're just saying that because that's what I want to hear. He goes, yeah, correct.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was the moment where you're like, ooh, okay.
Right.
Got you, Eddie. I see you.
In my mind, Roland and Eddie are the biggest powers.
Yeah.
Like not because Eddie is like supernaturally like empowered or whatever.
Yeah.
But because Eddie is the opposite of Roland on the spectrum that still falls within gunslinger territory. And the two of them together complement each other.
Right.
Every weakness of Roland is a strength of Eddie.
Yes.
And Jake, my interpretation, the role of Jake is to keep Roland touching grass.
Yes.
It keeps Roland in touch with his humanity.
Right.
Which he's 1,000 years old.
Right. He's got arthritis.
He's out of touch
How
with
sweet
reality.
was his little love story?
Aww.
Well, where she's like, I have a little house and sometimes I sleep there alone. And he's like, you don't have to sleep there alone.
Right?
That was so cute. And she rubs ointment on his hip.
His bad hip.
Yeah.
Aww.
I was like, I want this for you, Roland.
Without Jake, Roland would have not had the capacity to engage in that.
Think about how loveless the last time he had a sexual partnership
Oh,
was.
yeah. In the Gunslinger.
In the Gunslinger
when he's just hooking up with the lady upstairs at the bar.
And he's like, whatever. This was so sweet. That was so weird.
Right? That
platonic.
was carnal.
Yeah.
Right? That was purely sensory indulgence.
Yeah.
To, get some positive, get some dopamine flowing to escapism.
Yeah.
That was
distraction.
In the Gunslinger, him hooking up with the lady above the bar was escapism.
Yeah.
But when he hooks up with this lady
in
Caliburn Sturgis, yes, it was actual human connection.
Yeah.
And it bolstered him.
It did. He needed that.
He needed it, yeah.
He needed that moment of like, okay, I'm not just a gunslinger.
Right. And then Jake keeps him grounded.
And these are people.
It's like the agape love is the love that you have that you give to turn a non-person into a person.
Okay.
So like with a baby, you feel this unconditional love for a baby because of its potential. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And you give to it blindly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I'm contributing to this thing that will eventually be a person because me sacrificing of myself to turn this potential person into a real person is an activity that produces a better world.
Right.
And Jake keeps him anchored to that idea of, I need to continue investing in the humanity around me because it's a positive sum game. When I invest in the community around me, it produces more humanity than what I sacrificed to produce that. And so it's like what do they call it? A virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
Where a positive sum game where the more I do, the better the world gets, and I enable people to then contribute from themselves more, and it just expands. And that's what Jake does for Roland.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good place to leave it. We're going to talk about the Wind Through the Keyhole soon, and we will have more to add to that because I feel like that gives us another window into who Roland used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
I feel like we're getting back to Roland's younger self.
Yes, we have another flashback. This one is slightly less problematic, and we get some idea of the mythology that he grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that'll be a good food for thought for more discussion for next time. So we're going to leave it right here, and we will be back to it soon. So I guess
sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.